Thank you. Very interesting and very moving, that last one, Phil. Thanks for that. But I have a question for Melody. When you're putting out your communications to your followers, what type of thing gets the most engagement, do you find?
It depends, I guess, of the adventure. Yes. I guess it depends of the adventure. Definitely when I'm like diving and I'm like communicating like a project that has a purpose, that gets a lot of engagement. So I get people like asking me like why I'm doing this, how they can help. Is there like some way they can also like participate in these projects? So I guess it's like when I communicate something with a purpose, that's when I get the proper engagement. Yep.
This could go to either Jean-Claude or Melody. I understand getting people who are already divers engaged or getting the public engaged through the internet. How do you get people to go from online to offline? How do you get them to be more active in the field? And I think, Melody, you mentioned this a little bit about kind of sharing energy, but do you have strategies for how you get people off the computer and into the field to see for themselves?
Want to go first or?
Go.
I think this is a really interesting question because in my experience, since I jumped from a very different lifestyle or career from the corporate world to the scuba diving, I've been having like a lot of interaction with people that want to do the same somehow, or that they were not able like to even think that was possible, as probably I did when I was younger. Like if I will say to my mother or to my dad when I was younger, like, hey, I want to be a scuba diver for the rest of my life, they will say, are you crazy or what? But I did. And I actually like did my master's degree and everything just to become a diver. But now I apply all of my knowledge into my career. But somehow it was, I guess, like an act of courage. And that has been inviting other people to do the same somehow. So what I've been trying to do is like to put out there the information and the steps that they somehow may follow to get there. And actually explain that it's not so complicated. It may be rough for a period of time, but it's not so complicated and it can be done.
Jean-Claude, so you spoke a little bit about how there's maybe an image problem with the actual people in the diving industry in, for example, Europe versus Southeast Asia and the age. Do you think that there's an image problem with the diving itself that people can do in Europe versus what people would do in, for example, Southeast Asia or the Caribbean? I can imagine young people being more enticed by going diving with manta rays or mola mola rather than the type of diving that you would do off the coast of, for example, my home country in the Netherlands. Do you think that that is a big factor, and do you have any ideas on what to do about that?
I think diving is everywhere can be very interesting. I mean, coming from Switzerland, I started in the Maldives, but then I went back to Switzerland, and I could motivate people to dive in a Swiss lake, going in the mountains, and so on. I think you have to give the chance to the young people to be leaders in dive centers and allow them to promote their passion in a different way, and not always, say it has been like that for 20 or 40 years. You have to do like I say. When we started our career, when I started my career, we were going outside of these boxes because there were no boxes at that time. And I think now we have the tendency to make things too standardized, and especially all the owners of dive centers, they think it has to be done like that. They don't give the chance to the young people. Now, if you compare when there is a young entrepreneur opening a diving center somewhere in Europe, for example, they do things differently, and they are very successful, actually. So there's no limits, but you have to give them the chance to do that. And many times, the dive center owners, they don't leave them the room of, let's say, flexibility to do things differently. If you leave them, they will do a great job.
Hi guys, thanks, brilliant lectures. We can all see the difference between Melodie and Jean-Claude. Obviously, a lot
She's
of...
younger.
Not just the visual, I mean the concept. In my job, I overlook 6 different diving agencies, and I think the industry is also struggling, you know, maintaining the new generation, like you said. But there's many tools of, I can say, positive psychology, which works really brilliantly with the social media network, and this is how we can bridge the gap between the generation. Because diving is actually not just for young people. We know that a lot of older people, like introduced yesterday, are well off and can go to the water, while the young generation is like on a fast track. But there's a brilliant way to combine, like you gave example of like beach cleanup, which was the whole system. Now it's not enough, but we can combine the beach cleanup with speciality, like turtle speciality, ray speciality, and there's a lot of ways. It's a big discussion, obviously, for this short time, but it's brilliant for you to bring the perspective outside, because this is exactly what the industry needs. So no specific question. If you want to elaborate, great, but it's mind-opening. Thanks.
Thank you.
I have a good example. I live in Cyprus, and I didn't even know that there were turtles in Cyprus. And I have a friend, he opened a dive center. We searched for the USPs of the area. And every center was proposing try scuba or discover scuba diving in the normal way. He arrived last year and he said, learn to dive with turtles. He increased the price by 20 euro, and he's #1 in this area. He's full because of that, just because of that. Nobody is even copying it. They just keep what they have been doing so far. So you have these opportunities. You have to add value. You have to search for different ways to communicate.
Wonderful presentations, everyone. Thank you. Phil, my question is for you, because obviously you dive a lot of shipwrecks, and I think your stories obviously really help humanize the shipwreck. And I think a lot of times we see divers diving wrecks that don't really make those connections. They just get on the wreck and, hey, this is a really amazing wreck. What do you think, like, the dive industry could do better, or dive boat captains or instructors or dive leaders to, I guess, to connect people with the stories of these wrecks better?
That's a really good question, and I know you've dived the 17 and the Tulse quite a lot. Becky actually made me a 3D printed model of it, which is like good memory of the site. But I think if the dive centres had information, whether it be wall panels or basically videos or something like this, to brief the divers, because the number of people I've met who've dived the 17 and don't even know that anyone was lost on it, don't know that someone was recovered from it. So the dive centres should tell that story, because in my way, it doesn't make the site creepy, it makes it more engaging to dive. You know, the full history of it, where it came from, why it crashed, how it was paid for. And maybe that would bring more people in as well for this directive, make it more interesting than just another, sorry Pete, bunch of old rusty metal. You know, I like wet rock. But yeah, education, again, as with many things.
Hi, great presentations, really good. My name is Michael. I publish In-Depth Magazine. This is more an observation, but we try to run, conservation and various stories. Some ghost diving. I mean, that's something that has come out of tech. But I noticed that all our conservation stories are way down on the read list. I mean, we're obviously aimed at tech diving, but it seems like there's not a lot of interest in that. And sometimes I wonder if we should keep pushing it, like, you should know about this, you should be thinking about this, or kind of let it go. So any comments on that, just on the, again, the tech side and the blue economy and sustainability and conservation?
There is a girl in Hong Kong. Her name is Heidi Yu. She started diving, she was a mermaid, by the way. She started diving maybe 3-4 years ago, really intensively. And she created this Ghost Net foundation. I don't remember the exact name. And every presentation she does, it's full, because she explained the story. They did also a project in 24 hours in Sabah, where I was in August. And many people joined from different parts of the world. They came because she did that. She explained why go for these ghost nets, what to do, and so on. The interest was there.
There's interest, and it requires tech skills a lot of times to be cutting nets and lift banks and stuff. So that's a good thing, and I don't know. I just like to see more of our community get more involved in some of the conservation stuff.
I think also it's a good question, Michael, and I think it's also in our responsibility to push this, because sometimes like people can be, you know, like, I don't like to see that. I just want to see you jumping from the boat and see big fish and stuff like that. But it's also in our responsibility to push this type of narrative regarding conservation and how fragile are the ecosystems out there. So not everything has to be pretty, but we have to explain why it's not pretty. So otherwise, the communication is just lost out there. And I think it's a lot of the narrative on how we approach to these type of subjects. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Melodie. Thank you very much, Jean-Claude. Thank you very much, Phil.